Welcome back to Good Day, everyone. It is 8:08. Well, many Americans take swallowing, the simple act of swallowing, for granted every day. But for about 10 million Americans, they are diagnosed with swallowing disorders every single year. I'm joined now with Georgia Jackson and Denise Flanders. They are both from Amedisys Home Health, which is located there out there in Tifton. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning. Good.
Absolutely. So talk to me, swallowing. It's something you do every single day, whether you have something in your mouth, even something as simple as talking. Many people can't do anymore.
That's correct.
And it's a disease called dysphagia.
That's right.
So what is that?
Dysphagia is a term that we use to describe or to relate to a person that's having difficulty swallowing. It could be related to diseases such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's.
Just brain functionality, is that tied into it? Or how does one get the inability to, or I guess lose the ability to swallow?
Well, swallowing is a motor function. And when that area of the brain or the muscles are damaged in some way, nerves, then the person can experience some choking episodes, coughing during meals or after meals, and there's techniques that we can use in order to address those issues with the patient.
Sure, and we're going to find out a few of those techniques that they use in just a few minutes here on Good Day. But if people are afraid that their mother, father, an elderly person in their family is showing symptoms or signs that they might lose the ability to swallow, what would those be?
Coughing before and during after meals. When they lay down at night, they may experience some coughing episodes. Weight loss is an issue. Poor nutrition, you want to be careful for that.
And I'm assuming just not being able to swallow.
Correct. Can you think of anything else?
A lot of patients also have throat clearing, especially after they drink liquids. Fever sometimes.
Really? Wow. And how does a fever tie in, or is that just something associated with the disease? Because when you think of fever and swallowing, they don't really tie in.
Well, if you swallow and it doesn't happen correctly, it's going to go into your airway, and there it can become infected, and that's where the fever would start.
Wow. And I mean, obviously, the number one problem if food goes into your airway is not being able to breathe. What are some other signs or things that could be caused by that?
In really severe cases, vomiting can happen because of swallowing problems, and all of these things can lead to aspiration pneumonia.
Sure, terrible, terrible things to have. You mentioned Parkinson's and stroke. What are some other diseases associated with this?
Cancer of the oral cavity, which leads to, in a lot of cases, surgery. Radiation therapy can damage the soft tissue, which would make it very difficult for a person to swallow.
Sure, and I'm assuming all of this ties in with speech as well.
Yes, it can, especially if you have a patient who has a part of their tongue removed. So.
Wow, terrible things. And what can all this lead to? I mean, besides not being able to swallow, what's the kind of end result?
As in, like health-wise?
Sure.
Weight loss, dehydration, which is a major issue, especially with older people. They don't tend to drink as much as they need to, and then if they're having swallowing difficulties, that can, just make the dehydration that much worse.
Sure.
Also, Georgia, if swallowing problems are really severe, then the speech therapist, along with the doctors, can recommend feeding tubes.
Oh, wow.
But we want to avoid that.
Absolutely, and we're going to find out a few ways to do that in just a few minutes. Thank you, ladies, so much, and looking forward to the little demonstrations on how they get people to practice swallowing, something you probably don't think about practicing too much. We'll be back with more Good Day after this. Welcome back to Good Day, everyone. It is 8:29, and I'm joined now with Georgia Jackson and Denise Flanders. They are both from Amedisys Home Health Care in Tifton and Moultrie. We have 3 locations here in Southwest Georgia. Of course, it is a national chain. And ladies, we are all talking about dysphagia this morning, and it's a disease where people aren't able to swallow. So you have a couple little practices that you work with your patients, and we're going to get a little demonstration this morning.
Okay.
So what is all of this? I see cords and something that looks like it's going to shock me, and something a little as simpler like a lollipop.
All right, well, let's start with a little bit of simple things.
Okay.
A patient who is having difficulty swallowing, sometimes they may have difficulty with liquids, and other times they may have difficulty with solid foods.
Okay. Can it be one or the other? Or
It can be one or
both?
the other. It doesn't have to be both.
Okay.
And when we feel like that there may be an issue there and we don't have enough information, we'll ask the patient to have a modified barium swallow study completed, which is like an x-ray of them actually swallowing different food consistencies, a cracker, applesauce, a liquid, and it has barium in it, and that way we can watch what they're doing.
And is that when it goes, when you have a, I don't know if it's an MRI or a CAT scan, you can see everything through it?
Similar.
Okay.
Except it's like a moving x-ray.
Okay. I know I've had to swallow
video.
those before and they tasted awful. It was terrible. But if it can help you,
That's right.
obviously very beneficial.
And if a person is having difficulty with thin liquids, then what we want to do is we want to thicken the liquids. And a couple of different products that we use. Thicket, the patient can purchase this at drugstores, and this is just a powder, and you add it to the drink, and on the back it tells you how much to put. There's different consistencies, whether it's nectar consistency, honey consistency, the thickness of the liquid.
Now, I'm assuming, it seems to me that thinner liquids would be easier to swallow. Like water would be easier to swallow than something like honey, but is that kind of not the case?
You would think that, but when a person swallows, sometimes the muscles may not work correctly, and thin liquids would have a tendency to go behind the tongue, down the throat before the person is actually ready to swallow, which
Thin
can
liquids move much faster than thicker liquids.
And that's something, again, you never would think of unless these wonderful ladies came on this morning. So very neat.
And the other product, this is it's not a powder, it's a liquid. It kind of looks like thick Jell-O. It's clear. They're both tasteless, but with this one you can mix up large amounts, like a gallon of tea, and it doesn't get thicker. This one you wouldn't want to do large amounts, just a glass at a time, because the longer it sits, the thicker it gets.
Sounds good. So convenience factor for
Yes,
that one, for
yes.
sure. All right, now I see some lollipops and some bubble gum.
Yes. During therapy, I like to use lollipops and bubble gum to strengthen the structures within your mouth, your tongue, your lips, your cheek. So these are good to practice moving food from one side of the mouth to the other.
Because you don't want to swallow bubble gum.
That's right. That's right. And when there's weakness on one side of the face, a lot of times patients tend to pocket food in this area right here, in this buccal area. So I like to use bubble gum to help them learn how to use their tongue to sweep the food out of that area. And then I also like to use tongue depressors to work on tongue strength and lip closure. And we have some things called lemon glycerin swabs, and we typically leave these in the home. We put them in the freezer, and then we take them out, and then we swab the patient's mouth.
I bet it has a good flavor too.
It's lemon. It's a little tart.
Okay.
But this helps to stimulate the salivary glands and to stimulate other parts of the mouth. So we just rub it on the inside of their mouth and on the side of their tongue, or wherever we want to stimulate.
And then that practices them swallowing that saliva?
Yes.
Okay. Very neat. Now, what on earth is this contraption?
This is a TENS unit that we use with a patient, and what we do is we take these electrodes, and I'm going to put one on your hand.
Okay. This isn't going to shock me, right?
No.
Okay.
And I'll put one on mine, and I'll turn it up just a little bit.
All right. And what does this do?
And my batteries are dead.
Oh, no. Live TV, what you going to do?
But what I'll do is I'll touch your neck and see where there's, I can feel the pulse, and I'll take the electrodes and I'll place them on your neck where, in the directed spot.
And this is safe, right?
Yes, this is safe.
I feel like it's going to shock me.
And what you'll feel is you'll feel a tingling sensation and a drawing of the face, of the chin, and of the mouth. And that's what we're looking for, because when we see that, we know that they're in the correct position. And you won't have any control over it because we're addressing the nerves. And what we want to do is we want to stimulate those muscles that we use for swallowing. And so while this is going on, we want the patient to either do exercises that we're doing, and
Wow.
Denise is going to demonstrate one of those, and or either be actually eating or drinking something while this
Wow.
is going on.
All right, unfortunately, we are all out of time, so I don't think we'll be able to
okay.
do those exercises. But you ladies will just have to come back because this is also fascinating. I probably look pretty silly, but again, all in the name of health. We'll be back with more Good Day after this. Stick around.